Suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested for questioning over his failed martial law decree last month.
He was taken into custody by anti-corruption investigators just a few hours ago. Ushered away from the presidential residence in his motorcade, Yoon faces multiple inquiries and an impeachment trial. He denounced the investigations in a pre-recorded message released after his arrest.
Unfortunately, the law is all broken in this country. It is truly deplorable to see a warrant issued to an agency that does not have the right to investigate, a court that does not have the right to examine the warrant issue, an arrest warrant, a search warrant, and to see an investigative agency forcefully proceed with this illegal act of deceiving the people by issuing false official documents.
Yoon said he was surrendering to authorities now in the hopes of preventing bloodshed. Hundreds of opponents and supporters turned out in Seoul as authorities moved in to detain him. Let's go live now to CNN's Mike Valerio, who is in the South Korean city of Gwancheon, not far from the capital of Seoul. Mike, tell us the latest with what is actually happening with you now. He's in detention, but also a little bit about how this arrest happened, because apparently it was all fairly dramatic, with investigators reportedly scaling the walls of the presidential compound.
Scaling the walls and scaling buses, Christina and Max, good evening to you from here in South Korea. It wasn't a sure thing. It was not a sure thing whether this arrest was going to happen, because we go back to December 3rd, almost 2 weeks ago. That was the first time that investigators tried to detain South Korea's now suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol. He's a suspended president because he's going through this impeachment process to hold him politically accountable for declaring martial law on December 3rd. So what we see here, this is an effort to hold him potentially criminally accountable for declaring martial law on December 3rd, perhaps criminal prison penalties for declaring martial law. What we have in our background, these are the supporters who were outside the presidential residence in the video that we were seeing earlier, who have now moved about an hour outside the city to Gwancheon, behind this iron gate. This is a secure government facility where the Corruption Investigative Office is headquartered, and this is where suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol is taking a break from some questions. And behind the iron gate, you see a little bit in the distance, every now and then, a "Stop the Steal" sign, an echo of American conservatism now finding its way here in Korean conservatism, and protesters who are saying that, you know what, some of them are okay with the martial law declaration, and they're staying with suspended President Yoon because from their perspective, the liberal side of South Korean politics, it's unpalatable for them. So what we're watching for, Christina and Max, is to see how much longer suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol is going to be questioned here in this headquarters of the Corruption Investigative Office. So far, he has responded to no questions, pleading the equivalent of the American Fifth Amendment, reserving his right to remain silent. So we will see whenever questioning wraps up, perhaps tomorrow, when he goes back to his residence, will he be indicted? Most likely, analysts tell us yes, and then he'll go to trial, and that is a parallel track to him also facing impeachment. So will he be removed from office and also potentially face criminal penalties for declaring martial law? Christina and Max.
We're following it. Mike, thank you so much.
South Korea's president has been detained for questioning as the country's political crisis deepens. Yoon Suk-yeol has been under intense pressure after his shock declaration of martial law last month. This footage shows investigators scaling a bus blocking the entrance to the presidential compound early on Wednesday. South Korea's anti-corruption agency says he was arrested and then ushered away in a motorcade. More now from Mark Valerio in Seoul.
It was a motorcade that signaled surrender from a standoff. Defiance turning into disbelief as supporters of South Korea's suspended President Yoon Suk-yeol watched the former prosecutor arrested by authorities. He's now South Korea's first president to be detained while in office.
I don't know what to say. It's too much that I don't want to live. Too tough. This is not normal.
It was the second attempt this month to arrest the suspended president. The first happened on January 3rd, but that day, Yoon's equivalent of the Secret Service refused to give him up. This time, presidential security backed down.
존경하는 국민 여러분.
And Yoon said in a pre-recorded address he left with law enforcement because he did not want violence.
Responding to these illegal and invalid procedures is not an acknowledgement of this, but at heart to prevent unsavory bloodshed.
This moment brings South Korea ever so slightly back from the brink of crisis. Yoon's opponents saying South Korea's sitting president must answer investigators' questions about why Yoon declared martial law in December, leading, his critics say, an insurrection. Yoon Suk-yeol, who is supposed to uphold the Constitution and laws, has committed grave crimes, opposition lawmaker Park Chun-dae said, violating the Constitution and laws to declare martial law, but also obstructing justice through force and turning the Republic of Korea into a lawless state. Being questioned here is only one of Yoon's problems. He's a suspended president because right now he's going through an impeachment process over December's martial law. And that process could remove him from office within the next few months. For now, weeks after hundreds of thousands of Yoon opponents took to the streets, celebrating lawmakers greenlighting the first steps of the impeachment process, Yoon's most ardent supporters say they are not backing down. Some supporting martial law to further Yoon's conservative agenda.
Now I fully support the martial law, and including how it was executed. Nobody got hurt, nobody got arrested.
Mike Valerio, CNN, Gwacheon, South Korea.